In 1983, it won a Grammy for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance. We're talking a top 5 hit. These are the kind of songs that define a career. If this was this lady's only hit, which it certainly was not, she still could tour on just that one song. That's how big it was. And in the early 80s, there were a lot of songs that were known as driving tunes. The songs that could give you a speeding ticket. The Clash with Rock the Casbah. The Stray Cat Strut by the Stray Cats. Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Let's not forget Back in the Chain Gang with the Pretenders. Jeopardy, the Greg Kihn Band. Donna Summer had one, She Works Hard for the Money. So the song won the Grammy in 83, which usually means it was released the year before in 1982. We're talking about Melissa Manchester's top 5 hit, You Should Hear How She Talks About You. There's always something salacious about a song that basically is about saying stuff behind someone's back. This one was not written by Melissa Manchester. Rather, Dean Pitchford, an Oscar and Golden Globe winner. He was responsible for songs like After All, recorded by Cher and Peter Cetera. The Kenny Loggins, Steve Perry duet, Don't Fight It. Irene Cara's movie song, Fame. Denise Williams, Let's Hear It for the Boy, and a lot more. You Should Hear How She Talks About You was also co-written by Tom Snow, who's written songs for Cher, Anne Murray, Air Supply, Olivia Newton-John, Kim Carnes, Bonnie Raitt, the Pointer Sisters, Diana Ross, Leo Sayer, Kenny Rogers, and Sheena Easton, among others. And that's just the short list. There came a time when Melissa Manchester sort of felt that she outaged herself out of the song. It just wasn't age appropriate for her, and she felt uncomfortable singing it. In some ways, You Should Hear How She Talks About You sounds like a song that could be in Grease, or any Broadway show, or stuck in the mentality, and that's where things go wrong sometimes for artists, of the 80s. Not everything is aged well from the 80s, though it was one of my favorite generations for music. I say this song sounds as good today as it did before. She does sing it again, however. An interesting story from Melissa Manchester, who has given us so many hits and such a great career, and is still going strong. You Should Hear How She Talks About You on Rock History Music.
With You Should Hear How She Talks About You.
Oh yeah, see, I was just getting into radio, and I'm going, there she is.
Yeah.
But you let me interrupt you for a second. You had said that there was a part of you that, as you became an older, much more mature woman, that you weren't sure you wanted to do it, and you actually let it out of the set for a while.
I did. I mean, I had, I won a Grammy, and my beautiful friends Tom Snow and Dean Pitchford wrote it, and it was a magnificent gift. But as I was on stage in those early days, and by the way, the ego is a very funny little thing, I thought to myself, how am I going to grow old singing this song? And so I tried rearranging it for a while, and then I put it away for a while. I know. And then I thought, what am I doing? This is a gift.
Yeah.
So I took it out, and there's a video, because I have videos all over my show, and it creates a nice texture. And when I do, You Should Hear How She Talks About You, because it has such funny memories for people. The audience is hysterical. I barely get through the song because I'm laughing so hard at the audience. And it's very jolly, and I'm very grateful. I mean, that's it. I'm just really grateful.
Most real music fans know that Melissa Manchester co-wrote a lot of songs with Carol Bayers Sager, who was married to Burt Bacharach. And Melissa will talk about her in just a second. Sager was born in Manhattan, New York, and she's well known for writing big hits like A Groovy Kind of Love with Tony Wine. With Melissa Manchester, Come In From the Rain. By the way, I love Captain and Tennille's version of that song. And of course, her first big hit, 1975, Midnight Blue. She co-wrote Don't Cry Out Loud with Peter Allen, and the huge Leo Sayer hit When I Need You, co-written with Albert Hammond. Sager was nominated for an Academy Award 6 times and won once. She won a Grammy out of 9 nominations and 2 Golden Globe Awards out of 7 nominations. She's included in the Songwriter Hall of Fame, and she won that Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1982 for Arthur's Theme, The Best That You Can Do, which was sung by Christopher Cross and on the album and soundtrack and movie Arthur.
Let's start with Burt Bacharach. I know you and Carol wrote a lot of songs. It was a year yesterday that we lost him, and when did you meet her? I mean, are you really the first person that she chose to write for? I'm going to write for that person.
Yes. She had been a writer for hire. She was a Brill Building writer, the famous Brill Building that created, Neil Sedaka and Goffin and King and loads of people. And she was of that ilk. And then she saw me do my very last concert as a harlot with Bette Midler at Lincoln Center. And she asked me if I could come and sing a demo for her. So I did, and of a song that she was writing for I think a cartoon series or something. And after it was over, she said, "Do you write?" And I said, "I do. I write by myself." I'd never written with a collaborator then. She said, "Well, would you like to try to write a song?" So I went over to her place a couple of days later, and we just talked, and out of that came a song. And it was only in recent years that I learned that I was the first artist that she actually wrote specifically for. It was wild, yeah.
When you meet someone like that, did you click with her right away? I mean,
she seemed like a lovely person. I didn't really know what I was looking for since I've never collaborated before, but I did know that what got me to start hearing music was our commonalities. We were young women in young marriages at the beginning sort of the women's movement, and it was there was a lot to talk about.
You had said before that you described Coming from the Rain in a very similar way. The fact that you guys were, both of you young women, were just starting out. I mean, you're learning, and you find a compadre that somehow, that song, by the way, spoke to me. So many versions of it spoke to me. It's still one of those songs to me that has stood the test of time. I just love.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, the thing is, all of the songs that Carol Sager and I wrote are very conversational in tone because they literally came out of conversations. But that song in particular has a kind of a funny journey. We wrote the first two verses and the tagline Coming from the Rain. And then, it was the end of the work day. But I always had a sense that there should be a bridge. And so I went home to my apartment, and in those days, besides my then husband, I had my drummer living with us because he was so chronically late that the only way I could keep track of him was to actually have him move into my apartment. But he lived and he slept in the music room where I kept my upright piano. So that night I was thinking about Coming from the Rain, and I heard the whole bridge. And but it was 2 a.m. So I climbed over my drummer in his fold-away bed, went over to my upright piano, put on the damper pedal, and wrote out the whole bridge. Then I went back to Carol the next day, and I sang to her the bridge, and it looks like sunny skies. Now that I know you're all right, time has left us older and wiser. And she added, I know I am. So it was beautiful. And I got in touch with my old drummer recently. We went to lunch, and I said, "Do you remember that night that I climbed over you to get to the piano to write the bridge?" And he said, "Yeah, I do. I remember you climbing over to get to the piano." And I looked at the clock, and it said 2 a.m. And he said, "Oh, Missy's writing again. Go to sleep." So it
was that fun. Kirk Bruner from?
It was Kirk Bruner. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a drummer. I pay attention to drummers, so I love.
Yes. Yeah.
The new project, Review. I like what you did there.
Thank you for noticing it.
So that started around the COVID time or before COVID?
We started recording it at Citrus College, which is a community college in about 50 miles from here in Glendora, California. And I've been artist in residence there for quite a long time. And their music department is just stunning. And their recording studio is stunning. And yes, I had recorded about 60% of the tracks. And I used some student musicians and I used some student singers for the choral pieces. And then COVID hit, and then everything in the world shut down. And while I had planned on releasing Review a few years ago, my manager said, "You're coming up upon your 50th year of this career. Why don't you release it as a celebration of that?" So it worked out nicely. And it's being released at long last. But it's lovely. It's the breaking up of the word review is really quite intentional. It's about seeing something anew. These songs, I've performed most of them for a very long time, but over that long time, they my life experience has imbued the performances, my understanding of the inner world of the lyrics, and some harmonics with a richness that can't be substituted. You just live longer and you know more. And and one of the things that I learned from working on the stage is all songs come to an end. There are no fades on this record. Each song comes to an end. And there's some harmonic tweaks, as I said, and it's really beautiful. I had some fantastic guest stars. I wrote Whenever I Call You Friend with Kenny Loggins, and we finally recorded a duet of it with our beautiful friend Dave Cause doing a sax solo. And Midnight Blue, which is coming out shortly, I did as a duet. I reimagined it as a duet with Dolly Parton.
I just recently talked to Jeff Skunk Baxter for like the 20th time or something, and I asked him. I said, "Well, who? I'm going to ask you this after. Who surprised you the most?" He said, "Well, Dolly Parton." He says she's such a musician, but he said, and the title of the video was, Dolly graced us with the fact that she is such a great human being. Like you said, she does her own makeup. He said, "There's just something about this woman."
Yes, she is insanely beloved and well deserved. People will see that as we were filming this video, there was sort of the last shot. We were in the back of a Mustang, I think, she and I, and my director was facing us with the camera, and my manager was driving, and we were simply going from, we were making a right, and back into the parking lot where the studio was. And there happened to be a bus tour going down the street, and people saw her and they started leaning out the windows and screaming, and people would pull over and just yell her name and wave. She's so deeply beloved, and she's such a deeply good person. I only had 4 hours with her, which is a very short video shoot, but she was just as grand as could be.
I'm 63. My wife's 10 years younger than me, and I was playing Through the Eyes of Love. And she went, "Ice Castles, I love that song." It's another one of those songs that when I hear it, and that's the biggest song on Spotify, and I know that's just one medium, but at 17 million. But it's interesting how a song gets a new life through that. I know they don't pay their artists, but sometimes it's interesting to see what's risen through whatever reason.
What has endured, yes, what has endured. I mean, that's the thing about songs and songwriting and even singing songs that are gifted to you. You are conveying a world that simply didn't exist before. And you never know the purpose of that world until the listener says, "This song saved my life. This song clarified something. This song helped me celebrate something. This song got me through a really tough time." I've heard that over and over and over, and it is the unexpected gift, and because it's so precious, I never take any of this for granted. I never get tired singing any of these songs. All of this is a gift. I mean, this was the life I wanted, but the nuances of it surpassed anything I could have dreamt of.
One thing I've always liked about your vocals is I could always hear it. Bruce Hornsby didn't like it when I told him that. He said, "No, I want to be different." Because artists sometimes come from different angles.
Yes.
I said, "I can always pick you out." He said, "No, I don't want that." But with you, whenever I hear your voice, like when I remember where I was when I heard Midnight Blue. I remember that. I remember the old staring at the speakers thing of going, "Who is that?" So I've always liked that quality of your voice.
Thank you. Well, I carry forward the singers that I grew up loving, Ella Fitzgerald and Rosie Clooney, and those singers who were not only spectacular, but they had spectacular songwriters right for their voices. You know, Sinatra, Nat Cole, Tony Bennett, all of them. It was that genre. The singer-songwriter wasn't really a thing at that point, and it was only, well, in the '60s with the folk movement. But after the Beatles showed up, they really that was a defining moment on what was played on radio in terms of an American popular song, because Sly and the Family Stone and Stevie Wonder and James Taylor and Joni Mitchell and the Beach Boys. I mean, it was such a remarkable moment, in what was played on the radio, and the language in songs was changing. People were literally making up language. I mean, the Beatles made up obla di obla da, and nobody worried about it. Laura Nero, my particular muse, wrote, "Can you Surrey? Can you picnic? Come on down to a Stone Soul picnic." I said, "I can't wait to be there." So, yeah. And then I had the opportunity to study songwriting with Paul Simon, which was spectacular.
Who taught you how to? I mean, I probably all of the above, but phrasing. I love the way you phrase. I love. I love that little bounce you've got. Is there someone? When were you aware of that? Let me ask you that.
That is such a fair question. I became aware of the tonality of a singing voice when I was 5. My dad brought home the LP Ella Sings Gershwin, and it was just she and Ellis Larkins playing piano. And I didn't know what she was singing about, but I could not stop listening. My 5-year-old heart was just expanding with the tone of her voice. It was so comforting. And when she scattered, it was so playful. It was just the spirit all over the place. And when I got to meet her later, it was, thrilling. But yes, using the voice as the vehicle to sculpt the language of the lyric, to sculpt the language of the melody is it's fantastic. And in the '80s, when disco became what it became and ignited that particular light, and songs, the shape of songs actually changed, because prior to that, songs were still melody driven, and during disco they were rhythm driven. And once they became rhythm driven, not like Motown, that's different, because Motown songs, if you took the rhythm away, they were still stunning compositions. But with disco, it shortened the phrases and repeated them, and so lyrics couldn't be developed and melodies couldn't be developed. It was really quite a defining moment. And I had, success in that moment, but it was unexpected. It was not really where I live.
Melissa Manchester's new album is called Review. She redoes some of her old songs. She finally does a duet with Kenny Loggins on Whenever I Call You Friend. They never had a chance to do it. Our next video will be about that song. Dolly Parton's also on there as a duet. All the information you need is at melissamanchester.com. There'll be links to her website right in the description. Also in the links, if you want to make a donation to our channel, you can via PayPal. And thank you for all the folks who made donations in the last 30 days. It helped us buy a lot of new equipment, a brand new camera. It makes a difference. You can join our Patreon and get early access to all our videos. And join our newsletter so you'll never miss another video from all our 4 channels. Links to all of those in the description as well. We also ask, please subscribe to the channel, like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. I'm John Bowden, more from Melissa Manchester coming up in the next few days. This is Rock History Music. You take care of yourself. All right, just one last thing. Whenever the amazing Laura Nero comes up in a video, I always have this feeling that we should talk about her maybe just a little more before we end the video. Of course, a big inspiration to Melissa Manchester, but her songs have been everywhere. The hit single from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, And When I Die, from their 1968 self-titled album. It was, of course, on Laura Nero's debut album, More Than a New Discovery. Three Dog Night recorded Eli's Coming. Barbara Streisand with Stony End, the title track to her 1971 album. And everyone remembers the Fifth Dimension's Wedding Bell Blues. The Fifth Dimension also recorded Stone Soul Picnic. And the world would be so much better if Laura Nero was still around. Tragically, she died young at only 49 on April 8, 1997, the year before she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Before her death, she released 9 studio albums. And since her passing, there have been many live albums released. She was one of the greats.